So the topic today, and again, we are glad to have you here, is can we be social from 6 feet away? Teaching social skills. The waiting room keeps popping up. Teaching social skills during a socially distanced time. So my name is Lauren Viteri. I work at VCU Autism Center for Excellence. I'm a training and technical assistance associate, and I'm here today with Angelique Weinkoop. Angelique, do you want to say anything?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I can't see you. I'm here as a division specialist in Virginia, and I also thought about it, and I think I would like to share with you that I'm also a parent of school-aged children. So I come with both lenses, both as a person in a school division, as well as a parent who's coping with students engaged in remote learning. Okay, so we wanted to start by, I think we got to back up one slide. Thank you, Lauren. We wanted to start by just presenting a framework. The global community has undergone a significant change. And so by acknowledging that, we wanted to start by thinking big picture and thinking about social skills growth in a pandemic, both short-term differences and long-term similarities for growth. And then drill down to more narrow topics of how to teach social skills in this new world we're living in. Thanks. So there's lots that's changed, and we wanted to start by acknowledging that. And Lauren and I took some time to brainstorm what has changed. Social communication occurs both verbally and non-verbally. Our faces are covered, our words are now muffled, everything feels a little awkward. And this is challenging, and especially early on when normalcy seemed even more elusive, it was almost downright depressing. But we wanted to take a different spin on this and not sort of dwell on the changes and the difficulties that these changes present, and talk about also what hasn't changed in our world. So what hasn't changed? Some things that haven't changed are we still have the same students. These students still have the same complexities of strengths and the same complexities of weaknesses and challenges that they face. We as a division still have the same obligations to FAPE, or free appropriate public education. We still have the same evidence-based practices that we want to somehow use and twist into use in a way that we can use effectively in these scenarios. And what I've noticed too, just as we began the school year, we still have the same caring staff and the same resiliency that is at the core of special education staff and the students that they teach. So both Lauren and I came to the same sort of mindset of thinking about this topic, which is we still want to begin with the end in mind. The long-term goals of the students likely remain unchanged, but how do we continue to target these goals? We may need to think differently, but we are still thinking in terms of where we are headed and planning how to get there from where we are now with the tools that we have. And some of them are the same, but some of them are also different. And what I've learned lately is that everyone's just trying to learn all of these new tools. We're becoming pretty good at it lately too. So as we talk about that, and as we've tried to train our staff at the division level and then into the schools and administrators, everybody working together, the big picture is that goals nowadays are met in one of 3 instructional environments. We've got a synchronous environment where students are all learning at the same time. It's live. And then we've got an asynchronous environment in which time is less of a factor. It's more flexible. And you lose that in the moment feedback that you would get with synchronous or in-person instruction, but you have more flexibility. And then Thirdly, and takes time to sort of understand how to frame it, but we've got unplugged time. And I think we all kind of value our unplugged time. And this time is device free. There's no tether to a computer or a screen. And we have to devise methods by which to meet student goals that are not screen related. So regardless of the method or environment, what remains unchanged here is our free appropriate public education for our students. Students are still learning, still attending school, teachers are still teaching, and one way we've framed it is attendance is task oriented. So we have a task attendance rather than a time attendance. Another thing that we've emphasized is that access remains critical. So you have to think about what families can do to support their children, and also internet access for those asynchronous and synchronous learning opportunities. I've found it useful to consider the 3 learning environments, synchronous, asynchronous, and unplugged, as a planning backdrop in general, because it also works for the EBP of social communication that Lauren will be talking about more in depth today. So the lessons and methods of instruction, should they be done synchronously? What should be done asynchronously? And what lend themselves best to unplugged learning? These are the kinds of questions we ask with everything as we plan instruction. I thought, you know, as I've done a lot of these Zoom meetings and Google Meets, it's a different world to communicate with adults as well. And more often than not, I'm used to having dialogue and conversation with others. And we've gotten used to sharing information and then having set times for responses. But if you all have had ideas either in your home setting or in school settings that have worked with respect to instruction synchronously, asynchronously, or unplugged, you can share those in the chat box. And I think that might be useful to others in the future. So I think the big message here is just to be intentional about planning for each type, with the learner and the family in mind. So we started school like 8 days ago or something. It hasn't been that much time under our belt with school. And as you go into classrooms, they do look different. And we were very mindful of whether students would be a little anxious or taken aback by the new environment. Everybody's kind of rolled with it. People taking time to make sure there's appropriate distance between learning spaces. In co-taught classrooms, there's a line at the front of the room designating where teachers are teaching from at the front of the room and how far apart they should be. Lots of plexiglass everywhere, separating to keep everyone safe. So as I visit classrooms, it looks like business as usual, except these environmental adjustments have been made. So we have some things that are still the same despite the pandemic environment that we're in. And there's some examples of how schools have adapted and gotten creative to make kids feel comfortable and staff feel comfortable. So on this slide, what I've also noticed is as special educators, we tend to attend to detail, but this attention to detail has to become reframed and amplified. So instead of just walking down the hall and planning with your general ed teacher, or sending a student to go run an errand for you in an intentional way to be able to promote social communication that way, now you've got to do it differently. If they're at home and they're a remote learner, one of our teachers has done an interactive Jamboard, and you see that picture down at the bottom with the dog and the cat. And students get together and they're talking about their favorite pets or their favorite animals, and they're checking the boxes and communicating that way. So just providing opportunities for students to interact with one another. I was thinking this morning too, I was reading a an online discussion about parents, and it made me laugh. It's a good way to start the day. Parents who are parents of kindergartners and preschoolers doing Zoom meetings, and these kids have have no limits there. So they're sharing their dogs and their pets, and they're dressed however they want to be dressed. So I think it opens up opportunities for communication as well that you wouldn't normally have in a classroom setting. The other thing that we've noticed is family partnerships are stronger than ever before, because it's really a necessity at this point, right? So you've got to plan for these hidden opportunities for social skills instruction embedded into the lives of families. As a person with a family of my husband and my 2 kids, you run out of time to plan separate instructional time periods for your students or for your children. So instead, we're embedding instructional opportunities within our daily lives that just kind of are just part of what we do. So I was cooking with my child, and we were doing math and, and measuring, and these are offering parents ideas and creative opportunities to embed social skills instruction into their daily lives will, I think, take a little bit of the stress off of them. In the, I think it was last summer, my own daughter engaged with students with high needs disabilities in ESY, or extended school year. So she was in person with them in a classroom, and I began thinking about that and how we can do something just like that, but in this new environment that we're in. So teachers, I think, have a powerful opportunity to connect or be a broker, sort of an in-between person of the families that they're engaged with. If they know of families who are interested in getting students together for play dates or clubs or something like what my daughter did, which just providing as a peer model or a peer buddy within a classroom, they can connect those families, and then those families can then go online and play Would You Rather games or Quarantine Edition, or have play dates and social hours. So I think that just thinking ahead about how you can facilitate less isolation for our students would be a good role to play for teachers. So Lauren and I are also very optimistic people, and we look for these silver linings. Broadly, one of our silver linings is individualization and equity are now in the spotlight, and it's in the spotlight for everyone. As I navigate our new world, these are the themes that have emerged. There's a greater need for individualization and a sort of where everybody's looking at everything through a focus and a lens of equity. The principles of universal design for learning, this was something that I was personally interested in, but very few people kind of knew about it outside of my circle of special ed. Now I feel like it's everywhere. So this just means multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression is vital for a wider swath of learners now. Everybody needs universal design. There is an expectation now for social emotional learning to be a priority for students. This may offer opportunities to engage in inclusive environments, either virtually or in the same physical learning space. So I think it's interesting that a pandemic has created, what is definitely hardships in terms of social emotional skills for everybody, but that has in some ways even the playing field so that everybody needs these same things and could create opportunities for more inclusive settings remotely or in the same physical space.
Thank you so much, Angelique. So now that we've discussed the framework about social skills, part 2 is talking about tips and how to teach these skills. So let's take a look. So no significant learning occurs without a significant relationship. Relationships matter. We know this. We've always known it, and it's even more important to think about this now. And it's important to not only maintain relationships, but build these positive relationships as well. And social skills instruction becomes much more effective when we have that rapport and that positive relationship, because people want to do activities with individuals and activities that they like to do. So we have 5 tips today. Hopefully we have a lot of resources for you guys, ways to provide social skills instruction across the asynchronous, synchronous, and unplugged settings. The first one is to promote a positive relationship with people. And whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, a related service provider, positive environments are important. And distance learning can, in fact, be distant. And we want to avoid that chilly instructional climate, that just computer screen to computer screen. And we want to find ways to make social skills exciting and fun and interactive. And we want to interact with the person behind the screen, not just that glass of the phone or the screen of the computer. So here are some ways to do that. So promoting that positive relationship, really getting effective instruction. And we're going to talk about methods later in the tips, but Angelique and I felt that that relationship and rapport is so important. It was worth saying first. So personalize your learning environment. Make it comfortable, make it accessible to social skills. If it's in person and at home, have 2 chairs naturally face each other. It just makes that conversation happen a little bit easier. Or personalize your learning environment on the computer screen. Put a picture of your favorite activity or a picture of your family. Have that common space where everyone knows that social skills instruction is going to be done here. Similar to what we do in a school. We always have social skills in the same classroom, sometimes in the same space, and it's common, it's predictable, it will decrease that anxiety. Also have a landing page. I love that term, because that landing page means without fail, here's where social skills resources are, here's where social skills instruction is going to take place, and it becomes your own. It becomes the students or the individuals. It takes the shape of all who are involved. And teachers, add components to the lesson that focus on all students and their unique contributions. Diversity is so important. It makes social skills practical. It makes social skills relevant. So use those unique contributions. And also focus on the individual's interest and strengths. Everyone likes to talk about things that they like to do or that are important to them. Angelique and I can probably spend about 5 hours talking about visual supports or evidence-based practice. If you want to start initiate conversation, ask us about that. So we really want to focus on those interests, because that's what really gets that conversation started. It increases that motivation to have that social skills lesson, and it increases that social opportunity as well, because people want to get involved. So here's an example of a landing page this common space. So this is done with a Bitmoji classroom. So it's pretty approachable. It looks like we're going to teach social skills. There's a couch there. It's setting up the space to engage in social skills instruction. So there's consistency within the classroom, but the bulletin board changes. So predictability with the changes of instruction, and have a little hidden features and fun too. So the bulletin board, so for this social skills instruction, it looks like these 2 students, they're going to talk about hygiene. So personal hygiene, wearing your mask, how to wash your hands, why we don't want to touch our face. That's on that green board. And then what you could even do for fun is have discussion about what else can you see. There's a POW. I wonder what that could be. And maybe ask these WH questions, or what about the books? Is there going to be a new activity on the books? So having that interactive piece is important as well. So here's another strategy. It's called a 2x5 strategy. It's spend 2 minutes a day for 10 minutes connecting with the child about his or her interests. This is embedded social skills at its finest. Oftentimes we are running around our day, especially now, we're trying to balance and juggle everything. Sometimes having a social skills block is really hard to do in your life. So having this 2x10, 2 minutes to talk about interests, that could look like adding a visual or drawing, or having that conversation and that dialogue. That's going to promote those natural opportunities to discuss social skills. And sometimes it's just thinking about it just a little bit each day to really strengthen them. And by doing this 2x10, it builds positive relationships as well as the social skills at the same time. So you're really looking for the most bang for your buck right now. So here's an example of designing your own virtual locker. So if you go to this website, you can get this background. And this is a way to incorporate students' unique interests and needs. And here's a locker, and they're going to decorate their locker. So it's similar and can be transferred to the school. So, hey, we're doing this now digitally. When you get to school, you can add some of these. You can prep. You're preparing for when you return to school. You can carry this over. So some things to consider, maybe a picture of your family or friends or pets. Maybe you put your favorite movie poster in there. Maybe you put a link to your favorite music and a favorite music song. What about a hobby that you like to do, or what you cook with your family on Fridays? So, you know, it opens it up to whatever you guys choose to do, but it's a nice starting point and a launch pad for discussion. And then maybe as the instructor or the parent, you can take a step back and really let the kids talk about what they see and talk about what they share. So tip number two, choose skills deliberately. There are so many social skills to focus on for all of us. We continually have to work on social skills so we don't get rusty at them, but we want to take them 1 or 2 at a time. There's always that phrase, too many, maybe too much. And then what's going to happen is your social skills instruction is going to become diluted if you're choosing 10 social, skills to focus on. Pick 1 or 2, really focus on them, and think about choosing skills that are essential for now. So before, was it January, February, or January? Some behaviors that we thought were, hey, not the best, but weren't a priority, were something like touching everything at Target, hands all over Target, or maybe even picking their nose. Something there that may have seemed uncomfortable, or maybe, for lack of a better word, annoying behavior, is now a safety concern. Is now touching everything at the grocery store, licking the grocery cart, is now a safety concern. That maybe has moved up a little bit. So you want to prioritize and see what skills should we focus on now, and make sure that they're developmentally appropriate and they're based on the individual's ability level. So if someone is unable to attend class virtually or on the computer screen for 5 minutes, it's probably unlikely that they're going to be able to attend a virtual class for 4 hours. So we really want to make sure that we're relating the skills to their skill level and they're developmentally appropriate. So this is by far, and I've already given you a clue, but this is by far my favorite tip, using visual supports. And especially with social skills, visuals can make abstract concepts a little bit more concrete. Social interactions can be very complex and ever changing. Social skills is a beast of its own, right? And especially emotions. So my mad may look very different than Angelique's mad. My sad may look like hysterical tears, while Angelique, maybe her head's down. She puts her head down and shuts off. So add a visual to really make these really big abstract concepts, like something like emotion and mad and sad, really manageable, and do that with a visual. And the nice thing about visual supports is they can be adapted to the different environments. You can use them digitally. There's digital token boards, there's digital schedules and choice boards. And you can carry those over, you can print them out to that unplugged or that live. They are really able to be used. You don't have to reinvent the wheel if you change environments. So here's a example of just a very simplistic, our masks are on. So maybe this is something that you show right when you get out of the car and you're heading into Target. Maybe this is what you see in the classroom. So you're actually modeling how to put that mask on. So the mask isn't hanging off your ear. It's not, you know, flinging around, throwing it up in the air. It's not my favorite, trading with one another, who has a, you know, fancier mask and trading. It's showing exactly what that mask wearing and what on looks like. And for this example, it is an icon, it is a clip art picture, but you feel free to use an actual photograph. Have a photograph of the kid or have a photograph of you. So then it's a realistic picture of what a mask looks like on. And then the opposite of that is our masks are allowed to be taken off. You can see that they don't have to be on their faces. Maybe you show where it's supposed to go or what times where this is appropriate, if I'm eating, if I'm at home. And so having those visuals that you put up and put down. And then you can start with these supports and you can always fade them out as the student becomes successful or as the child becomes successful. But it's always good to show the appropriate behavior on the upfront, and then you can always back off it and fade out the supports if needed. This is a website. It's called the Wheel of Names. It has become one of my favorite websites because you can do so much with social skills, with instruction in general. So you add the arms of the wheel and you put either names or words into them. So what you can do here is this wheel could be names for partners. It could be for turn taking, who comes next. You can even maybe not add the names and have discussion topics or job responsibilities or emotions. So you can use this predictable system, this consistent digital resource and change it for a variety of social skills activities. I love this. And if it's a free website, and they have an audio piece to it too. So if your students like that kind of audio praise, so the wheel spins and say Lisa gets it. It pops up and has Lisa and has yay and these flashing lights. You can take that off if it's too much, but that's another way to make it a little bit more interactive and fun. So here's a Bitmoji emotional check-in. Especially in today's world with adults, with students, with everyone, it's important to have a mental health check-in. There's a lot going on. It's a lot of different, and different can be uncomfortable and anxiety provoking. So as much as we can have this emotional check-in, but doing it in a fun way instead of it just a verbal, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? Gauging the mood of the room and the classroom is important. So having a Bitmoji that you can put you can download it right onto your computer. And this Bitmoji is me, but I have different emotions. And so maybe every time you start with a social skills, or every time you wake up in the morning and it's time to get up and do some work, how do we feel? Maybe you have an emotional check-in right before you go on the computer for virtual learning. Then you can gauge that child's feelings and put supports in as needed, or put help and provide assistance if necessary. I also like these for situational or scenarios. So I'll say, hey, Miss Lauren bumped her toe today. How is she feeling? Is she feeling happy or is she feeling mad? I ate too many cookies today. Ooh, do I feel sick or do I feel hurt? And so using these platforms again and changing the variety of the instruction that you're doing. So here's an example of a comic strip to teach social skills. And this can be found on the VCU ACE website under their COVID resources. You can download it for free. And comic strips can be used to talk about some pretty heavy topics or some difficult topics in a calming way or a appealing way. So for this one, we're talking about how to deal with a global pandemic. That's a pretty serious conversation. So how can we do it in an approachable and a calm manner? Well, we can add social superheroes. Or we can use Batman. You can use Spider-Man. Maybe you even put your child's picture on there. And so it's walking you through the social scenario in a manageable way. So comic strips are always something great too. You can even have your child or student make comic strips and walk you through a scene and walk you through steps of appropriate ways to handle a situation. So additional examples that can be carried over, again, really looking at a digital world, an in-person world, an unplugged world. How can we use these and build them so that once, you know, our settings change, we can continue to use them? That's the really practical piece. Using resources that can be generalized across different environments. So having a script, so writing, hey, what do I say when someone's too close to me? Or what do I say when I have to advocate that I need to wash my hands, or maybe that I don't feel good, or how to interact now with social distancing? Use those scripts. Prompt cards, they give you discussion topics to talk about. So those cards come up, hey, we're going to talk about this. It's that prompt to initiate that social skill. Social narratives are also called social stories. With talking with teachers, these are a go-to. So you know, as you transition from home to a school setting, maybe you have a social narrative or a social story that says, hey, I'm going back to the same school, but it may look a little bit different. And my teachers may have masks on, and that's okay. And this is ways that I can do it. And then that social narrative can be used at home. It can be used with your related service providers. It can be the same with your teachers and your administrators, so everyone's on the same page. I really like power cards. So they're cards that use favorite characters, athletes, favorite activities, whoever. And the power cards are simply say, hey, Michael Jordan washes his hands for 20 seconds with hot water and soap. You can too, great job. Or you know what, SpongeBob wears his mask when he goes to Walmart. You can too. And what you do is you create them with the student, you create them with the child, and then you build your set of power cards. And you can even virtually trade them and share them with others. And then the thinking versus saying, I think we all need this sometimes, but the difference of what is something that I can think and what is something that I can say. And that's really a great resource. I was pregnant with twins last year, and I had a student say, oh, you're really fat. And so I had to really explain, hey, I'm having some babies, but that would be a perfect natural opportunity to say, hey, thinking versus saying. It's okay to think that, sure. But should we really say it? Why? Because it could hurt someone's feelings. So those natural opportunities, having all these visuals in your library that you can pull out as needed can be helpful. So tip 4, encourage and reinforce. We always want to bait the skill or set the stage for social situation. So this is called priming. So oftentimes with a distance learning now, we have to have these planned opportunities. Why? Because it's a little bit harder when you're far away, you're not engaging in these unstructured time, you don't have locker time, you don't have leisure with everyone there. So you do have to set the stage a little bit more. So prime that. So prime that in person, prime that through virtual learning, set those stage for those social skills. And then you have planned and natural environment settings. As much as you can, have those planned, but sprinkle in those natural environments. And you can do that with those virtual lockers, with those digital show and tells are great. It just naturally sets itself to have that conversation and that dialogue back and forth. And we want to reinforce appropriate skills. And this increases the likelihood that it's going to happen again. We want it to be enticing to engage in social skills. We want kids to run to social skills instruction, and we're doing it we do this by pairing it with good. And so really reinforce, you want to make it enjoyable. You want them to engage in that appropriate behavior because it's paired with something like a social praise or a token, you know, a fun activity. So always encourage and reinforce, be that cheerleader, because sometimes social skills can be difficult for students. So here's a silly example. Here I am. So it's a little weird seeing my face up there, but so this is me, and I'm priming a conversation about behavior at a movie theater. Practical, functional skill, especially for older kids or when we want to build friendships. We often go to the movies, or we have a movie night. We have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have Amazon Prime, we have all of that. So how do we set the stage while we're socially distanced to practice these skills? So what does Miss Lauren need to do at a movie theater? Can she be jumping up and down, running through the aisles, or is she quiet? Can she be on her phone? Can she be taking pictures? Is she allowed to eat? So just setting the stage here, you're priming for that conversation. And this is very easy to do. I Google searched movie theater. I saved it to my computer and I put this as my background in Zoom. I don't have a green screen or anything like that. I was able to use that with just a Google image. So here's another one. I'm out in space. So this could be just something silly at the beginning of your instruction or the beginning of your day. And it's like, what's Miss V gonna be now? What's Miss Lauren gonna do now? And so right now I'm floating in space. So maybe I have a WH question. So where am I? What should I be wearing? Why do you think I'm smiling? So you can have all these fun things. I should be probably wearing a spaceship. Where should she go? Should she go to the red planet? Should she go to, I think that one is, I want to say Jupiter. You know, so where should we go? So these little backgrounds can just set the stage. You're baiting the skill for that social skills and dialogue back and forth. I don't know if you guys have heard of Snap Camera. It is an app that you can download. It has all fun filters and backgrounds. So the other day I was a gingerbread man. And so where could I be? Or what song is the gingerbread man? Can we all sing it? And just a word of the wise, make sure your Snap filters aren't up the next time you have a really important meeting, because I went to my next meeting as a gingerbread man. So that took some explaining, but these are fun things that are easy to implement and they can really promote that interaction. So last tip is strengthening the foundational skills. So when in doubt, we want to make sure that we have a solid foundation in our social skills. If we don't feel comfortable about moving to all these different social skills, work on those you know, back to the basics. So I call them the big three, but it's talking about receptive and expressive language and nonverbal. So it's thinking about listening skills, conversation, and nonverbal. So really when we're thinking about building this solid foundation, things build up from here. Skills continue to build up when we have this solid foundation in conversation skills. And so focus on that back and forth of communication. So this last part is just taking these big three, and just sharing some resources of how to focus on them, especially for high needs learners. So listening skills. You could do bingo or virtual bingo. Simon Says is something that can be transferable. Again, we can do that in person. We can do it asynchronously. You can record it, or you can do it, you know, live via Zoom or Google Meets. In the river on the bank game, this is a fan favorite. I was telling Angelique about this game. I was so excited to share it with her, and I'll show you in the next slide. Definitely a student favorite. And thinking about the clapping game is a listening game as well. So you pick a target word. It could maybe be the topic of your social skills lesson. So maybe that target word is an emotion. Maybe that target word is something silly. Maybe it's talking about prepositions or farm animals, but you choose that word, and whenever you say that word, the student claps. or they do the clap feature on the Zoom screen. And so you're listening for that target word, and you can add distractor words to increase the level of difficulty. So say the trigger word, the target word is happy. So maybe you have smile, maybe you have content, and then you're getting warmer and you're using those distractors to really make sure that you're listening. So here's on the river, in the river, on the bank. So you can do this at home, you can do this at school, but essentially it's a listening game, and you have to set up two things: a place that's on the river, in the river, and a place that's on the bank. So at home, maybe you separate that by pillows. Maybe you put down floor tape at school. Maybe you put a jump rope to separate the on the bank and in the river. And you start on one side, and then there's different levels at the top. So this is, again, a Bitmoji classroom. I use them a lot. I find that they're user-friendly. They're kind of a one-stop shop that I can really create games and social skills activities with. So for this could be asynchronous because there's already a voiceover on levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, but you can do it in person. So then, okay, everyone start on the bank. Then it's in the river. They have to jump over whatever that is to in the river. If there are fine motor and gross motor deficits, maybe it's not jumping, but maybe you put your finger across, or maybe you have a stuffed animal that goes back and forth. So you can really adapt it to the needs of the student, and you go back and forth. So as the levels go up, it's faster and faster. So I think level 1, it's 7 seconds to get from one side to the other. And I think level 5 is 2 seconds. So they really have to be listening. So you can, again, teach the skill online and then bring it into the classroom. Really, really a fun game. So next is nonverbal skills. So practicing charades. You can make it academic charades. You can make it emotional charades. So, you know, digital learning charades. So what does that look like? How about a TV stop and freeze? This is something that can be embedded into our day. Again, sometimes it's hard to really find a social skills block during the day, but when everyone's, you know, sitting down at the end of the day watching their favorite show, stop a couple of times and have a discussion about it. Hey, was that a good choice, or maybe not such a good choice? What could he do instead? How was their friendship? Was it good? What could they have done differently? So that TV, you know, you could have your favorite cartoons on and talk about it with emotions. Simon Does is similar to Simon Says, but now it's actions. So what are they going to be doing? They're looking at their actions and carrying it out. Having any sort of emotion games. How am I feeling? You know, put up, if you're using a curriculum called Zones of Regulation, red means angry. So the color red is lifted up when I'm mad. Or how about you demonstrate, you know, sad? What does that look like? Using all those nonverbals. And then follow my eyes to the prize. This is a fun one too for digital learning. So behind me, I can hide different objects around. And only with nonverbal cues, I can say where those things are. So kind of that hot and cold game. That can be really fun too. And conversation skills, role playing. There's an app called Marco Polo, and that's where you can record videos and they stay, and then you could role play different scenarios. Any sort of video modeling, this is a perfect opportunity to practice video modeling, because naturally, I mean, we're on the video all day. There's something called Zoom fatigue, right? But we can use that now to our benefit and build up our libraries, video modeling. There's conversation Jenga or conversation dice, and then there's a color game. So we usually pair it with like candies or fun treats, and different colors have different conversation topics. So if I pick up a red M&M, a red means, hey, we're going to talk about our favorite food. A green means we're going to be talking about something that makes us happy, or maybe something that makes us sad. And so here's an example of the conversation dice. They're on Amazon, but if you don't want to spend $12.99 on conversation dice, you could go to the dollar store and get like a beach ball or an inflatable ball, a 99-cent ball, and write on it. And then that could be that each color of the beach ball could be a different topic. So you can get pretty creative with things around your house as well. So here's that color game. This is with M&M. So each color is a different topic and a different prompt. So that was kind of talking about those big three. And to end this, before we talk and open it up to you guys and hear, you know, your thoughts and any questions from you guys, we have some voices from the field. So it's one thing when Angelique and I talk about it for about 40 minutes or so, but we wanted to share from teachers who are in schools implementing social skills instruction at social distancing, whether that's in person, that's unplugged, that's asynchronous or synchronous. So we have 3 teachers. They're going to share about 2 minutes each what they do. So just trying to give that practical experience. So let's go ahead and talk about that.
For whole group social skills instruction, we have students that are learning at home virtually and then students within the classroom for the in-person learning. We do the instruction lessons with both populations of students at the same time. Typically with group social skills instruction, we start out with a visual schedule so students know what their expectations are and understand the beginning point and end of point of different activities within the lesson. Social skills lessons start out with a feelings check-in. We do the zones of regulation within our classroom. Students at home have this visual where you have the blue zone, green zone, yellow zone, and red zone. And students in the classroom also have this visual. At this time, we go over the different zones with the students, and students take turns sharing out how they're feeling in the morning. The majority of students do pick that they're in the green zone, they're ready to go, they're ready to learn what the lesson is about today, though some students do choose a blue or a yellow or a red. If a student chooses one of the color zones other than green, we go through as a group different strategies that the student could use to help themselves get back to that green zone and showing us that they're ready to begin the lesson. Once everyone has done their check-in, we moved on to a closet scavenger hunt. Now, within this closet scavenger hunt, students at home were aware of what items they need to find in their closet or in their drawers or in their rooms. And then the students within the classroom had a pretend closet with pictures where they could find the items that they needed. So with this activity, the teacher told the students to find an item in their closet. They had to go to their closet and come back with that item. Once they had the item, they could share the item out with the rest of the group. We continue this with every item from the closet scavenger hunt. And we followed up with questions about each of the items to each student. This helped us with our answering of WH questions. This helped us especially with answering questions about functions and features of objects. Sometimes students even asked questions of other students' objects, and the students really enjoyed this activity, and it helped them with regards to getting up and moving and really interacting with one another. And last but not least, within our group social skills lessons, we typically finish with some sort of functional skills task. This one particularly was the students had to lay on their backs on the floor. An adult who was assisting them helped tape a piece of paper on the underside of a table, and students could draw a picture on the underside of the table. Some students enjoyed this activity, some students did not particularly enjoy this activity. But once they were done with their drawings, if they did choose to participate, they also had the opportunity to share out their pictures with the rest of the group. Particularly the students in the classroom, they were able to go up to the computer and share their pictures with the students that were at home. And the students who are at home held up their pictures so the students here at school could see them. And it gave students the opportunity to ask questions or just to talk about and describe their different pictures.
We're going to hear from teacher number 2.
When schools went to remote learning in March of this school year, I wanted to continue my social skills group with these students. I had to reconfigure what that would look like in this new remote world. One of my paraeducators who worked with me during extended school year over the summer created multiple jam boards to facilitate social communication that would occur between this core group of friends as if they were in a regular school setting. We tried to cover concepts that they would talk about on a daily basis and that were of interest to the student. These jam boards or activities were interactive and designed to engage the boys with each other. In the course of working through these tasks, they learned that while they did not always have the same answers or like the same things, they were still all friends and that it was okay to have different interests.
And here's our last teacher.
Leading up to the return to school, my paraeducators and I discussed several ideas to work on social skills with our kiddos. We have 4 students who are learning 100% online and 3 who are learning in person. Our best option for a whole group social skills time was to utilize our morning meeting circle time routine to have a whole group social skill lesson. Each morning, our kids log on for their scheduled time, and while they're logging on, we allow them to talk to one another, and we also let the students who are here in person sit in front of a Chromebook so that they're able to talk to their peers as well. Once everybody is logged in, we do a nice greeting. We greet them in different ways. Good morning. How are you? How was your night last night? Maybe what have you had for dinner last night? And then we move on to our morning meeting with our morning message and then our calendar routine. After we finish all of our calendar routine and our songs that help them remember the days of the week and the months of the year, things of that nature, we practice different ways to say goodbye to our friends, maybe see you later, see you tomorrow, I hope you have a good weekend, things of that nature. We also sent home links to several social stories for the kids so that they were better prepared for what the school was going to look like when they returned. As far as our virtual learners, we sent home social story links as to why they were learning on the computers now. A few students have been used to having different related services online, but they hadn't been working with their teachers online. So that was something new to them. So we were sure to include different social stories there.
So just some voices from the field. Summary, before we open it up to you guys, just remember to plan with the end in mind. What do you want your child or student to accomplish? And effective social skills instruction can be provided in a variety of environments. You guys got this for sure. And then utilize resources based on the individual needs and interests. So there's only a couple minutes left. I have some resources for you, the ACE website, and Due to Learn is always a good one too, but let's open up to you. Thank you for listening to me and Angelica and the teachers. Is there any questions that we have?
Thank you both for a great session. It was really good. Plus our 3 mystery guests who presented our mystery teachers. There was already a question about whether the presentation would be recorded and posted to our website. So yes, it will be, like all the Lunch and Learns. Yeah, it'd be great to go back through this information and kind of tease it out. Additional questions? I know we had a little shout out for Lauren with congratulations on her twins.
Thank you so much. It's fun.
Somebody else's twins are now 36 years old, so you have something to look forward to down the road.
Yes.
Well, if we don't have any other questions, I just want to thank everybody. This was a great session. We had a great turnout. Stacy posted in the chat room our next Lunch and Learn. I think that's going to be you, Lauren, isn't it?
Yes, me and Teresa Kogar, we're going to be talking about creating meaningful relationships to promote that learning.
Oh, awesome. Perfect. Oh, there's a nice little up and coming topics. All right, all. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.